Confidence doesn't come before taking action. Confidence comes from the evidence you build through action. However, the big problem is when people take action, they're so attached to the outcome. They're attached to the results, and this is because they're coming from their ego. Their ego is trying to control everything. Hence why when people try to lose weight and they step on the scale after 2 weeks and they don't see results, they give up. Or they start creating YouTube videos but they don't get any views and so they stop posting. But what if, instead of taking action for the outcome or for the results, you took action just to build evidence? Because when you build enough evidence, your self-perception will start to change. For example, let's take an artist, and they were to start painting every single day for 20 minutes. The truth is, it doesn't matter whether the painting is good or bad. It doesn't matter whether people buy it or not. What matters is that they are painting every day. They're building evidence. And eventually their brain will start to change the way they see themselves. And they will see themselves as a painter. They will see themselves as someone who shows up consistently and sticks to their own word. Trust me, that is far more valuable and important than focusing on the results. And I honestly believe from my own personal experience that this is the hack to changing. You have to learn to let go of your expectations and learn to let go of your attachment to the results and the outcome, and instead take action for the sake of taking action. Take action to build evidence. Take action to become someone different. And I'll give you a personal example, but for 1.5 years I was building my business and I had hardly any results. Literally every day for 1.5 years I would show up and I would work. I would learn things. I was buying courses, learning them. I was reading business books. I was trying new things, testing things out. I was doing lots of free work and I didn't get any results. I wasn't making an income, but I was building evidence. And that evidence was changing how I see myself. It was changing how my self-perception works and the identity that I hold about myself. But yet, I was still getting no results. Until finally, 1.5 years later, everything started to fall into place. And in one day, I made the same amount of money that I used to make when I lived back in the UK in 1 month. Because when you take action to build evidence, you literally become somebody new. And although you might not see immediate changes in your reality, they are going to come. And there's this quote I like by a very successful entrepreneur called Sam Ovens, and he says, "It doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe to be true, because with work it will become true." Now what that means is that it doesn't matter what your current reality looks like. It doesn't matter who you currently think you are. What matters is what you believe you can become. What matters is that you can believe in the possibility of a different outcome, because with work, it will become true. And so I guess the reason for making this video is because you don't need to totally believe in yourself right now. In fact, it makes sense that maybe you do have doubts because you haven't built up enough evidence. You know, if you want to become an entrepreneur but you've never made money online, then of course you're going to have that doubt. If you want to become someone who's fit and healthy or like an athlete, but currently you don't really move at all or you eat bad food, of course you're going to have self-doubt. But it doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe to be true, because with work, it will become true. If you can believe in the possibility that you have the potential to become somebody new, and instead of focusing on the results, or instead of focusing on the outcome and letting go of your expectations, but just showing up and building evidence, it's only a matter of time before that will become true. And another way to look at it is, let's say that tomorrow you did get the results you really want. For example, let's say that you did get 1 million subscribers on YouTube tomorrow. Or let's say tomorrow you had that successful business that was 10,000 a month. As your current self now, would you be able to sustain that success? Really think about that. Who you are right now and your habits and your thoughts and your behaviors and the way you go about life, if you had those results, would you be able to remain consistent? The truth is, probably not, because you didn't actually become somebody new. You just got the outcome without actually building any real evidence and without changing your self-perception. Because results can be gone in an instant. You could lose your business tomorrow. The YouTube channel could be cancelled. Everything could fall apart. But when you do the inner work on changing who you are, changing your self-perception, stepping into a new identity, that is something that cannot be taken away from you. And when I look back at my own life, this is literally how I changed my brain. I just let go of all the expectations, of all the judgments, of all the attachments to my outcome and results, and I just focused on building evidence. I look back at my younger self who was so insecure, who was so socially anxious, who was addicted to scrolling, who never did anything. And when she started to change, she wasn't focused on expectations of how things should look or trying to control the outcome. She was just focused on taking the action, even though she felt so unconfident. And as she kept building up evidence, her self-perception started to change. And in turn, she became someone new. And literally everything I dreamed of, this is so crazy to think about, literally everything I dreamed of came true. Simply because I didn't focus on the outcome and I focused on building evidence. And so if you're feeling unconfident or you lack self-belief right now, it's simply because you don't have enough evidence yet, and that's okay. Because confidence doesn't come before taking action. Confidence comes from the evidence you build through action. And so let go of the expectations, let go of the attachment to your results and the outcomes, and instead take action for the sake of building evidence. Because as you continue to do that, you will change your self-perception, you will step into a new identity, and everything will start to change. And so I hope this video made you think. Thank you for watching and all the best.